Lost, save, loaded.
Hello and welcome to the Last Save Loaded podcast. I am Jake Del Toro, and over there my friend and co-host is...
GB Joey. Hi Jake, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How have you been keeping?
Yeah, I've been alright. It's been a long time since we've sat down here in front of the microphone, and I'm just glad to be here again.
Yeah, it's great, and we're very pleased to welcome a special guest for today's episode. We have Mr. Chris O'Regan from the Super Happy Fun Time Show. Hello, Chris.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's an honour to be amongst a company of fine gentlemen.
Oh, no, the pleasure's all ours.
It's our pleasure.
It wasn't you. I was talking to the other... Oh, you yeah, you two as well, yeah. I guess I could include that.
Did you forget which podcast you were on then?
I've no idea. I was just seeing things. But anyway...
Oh dear.
So we're here to talk about a game that that Chris actually put forward to us. It was quite early on in our podcasting career, if you can call it that Chris got in touch with us with a few games that he thought would be interesting. And then when we asked him if he wanted to come on, he kindly said yes. So we asked him which game he'd like to play, and he suggested this one, Mark of Cree.
Yep.
And as I've said before, I'd never heard of it. So what was it about this game that made you want to go back to it, Chris?
I can blame... I'm not going to be like, I know about this game from... I bought it originally when it came out, because I certainly didn't. I read an article about it in The Edge. And they were talking about its various innovative elements of gameplay mechanics that it had that have not been seen since. And then they talked to the developers. It was actually Sony themselves in their San Diego studio actually developed this game back in 2002, 2001, so it's like a 10-year-old game. But some elements of it don't feel like that at all. So I thought, well, I haven't heard of this game. I played it after reading the article, and I was gobsmacked. I found it thoroughly entertaining, very modern, if you want a better phrase. Graphically, because it's on a PS2, everything's a little bit fuzzy, but we just put up with that now, because when you play a PS2 game, that's what you have to put up with. But back in the day, it was quite amazing, and I just wanted to raise the profile of this game because it raises some interesting questions about what happened since the release of this game, and what elements that have reappeared, certainly very topical Batman games, namely, have found may have been, I'm not sure if it's true, may have been inspired by this title. It's much, I'm not going to say maligned, it's been forgotten. Not a lot of people know about it. You mention it and people go, oh, I'm sorry, what? It was one of the games that was just one of many, many, many PS2 games that came out that was just not really given the attention that it deserved. And it's not as if it was developed at the later life of the machine. In fact, it was released just at its beginnings, if you think about it. Well, about 2 years after the PS2 was out, this game arrived in North America anyway. It didn't arrive in Europe until in 2003, but that's part of the course back in those days. And there's some... We'll talk about it later in the show, but there's some really amazing thing it does. There's some very bad things it does, but again, in most games there's there's some good and bad. But there's more good to this game, I just felt it need to be discussed, dissected, and see what we can learn from it. It's all.
A very it's beautifully done, because one of the things that struck me when I started playing it and I put it into the machine was the artwork.
Yeah.
The artwork is absolutely spectacular. It's the the way the figures are drawn while the voice is telling the story.
Brilliant.
It's just absolutely fantastic. And I think I said in the intro episode, very Disney-esque, because you can see that the characters have this sort of Disney feel about them. They've got like these
Yes.
eyes and this round noses sort of thing.
But-
If you look at the main character, he's got this expression of a Disney character,
Yeah.
and a bit of like Mulan and these other.
And then when you go to the Sage, and we'll talk about that later, he's full on Disney. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
well, he's just straight out of a Disney cartoon. But there's an opposition to that style. Is that this game is not PG.
No, it's
This
certainly
is
No.
There's blood everywhere, everyone. So it's like a bit strange. Like, hang on, there's people's heads being chopped off, gushing blood everywhere. I mean, it is extremely violent, but it's all got Disney-esque animation. So I was very confused at that.
And it's good
Yeah, well,
fun.
when you first mentioned it, I was pretty similar to you. I think I'd never actually heard of it, so I was quite intrigued. So I went straight onto Amazon and bought it off Amazon Marketplace for peanuts. And when it arrived, I looked at the box art and thought, this looks like it could be a cutesy platformer, looking at the front cover.
Oh yeah, the cover is terrible.
art-
It was very
the art
deceptive.
style.
Yeah, the art style,
I
the
was
cover.
half expecting something like Jack and Daxter.
Yeah, or indeed, like, what has Mr. O'Regan done? I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, that's what I thought actually.
Yeah.
What has Chris suggested here? What is he trying to get at?
Yeah.
No, it was a very strange thing. As Jake said, it's a very strange feeling when you have this book. Because he gave me the box when I was over in London.
Yeah.
It was one of the games that I got off him, and I thought, what have you given me here?
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm not a child. And like, just
And it-
play it.
and-
Just play it. But
It was good, yeah, because I was just going to say that when I got back, it was one of the first things I decided to have a look at. I thought, hang on a minute, just to check that this is not really what I think it is on
Yeah.
the box, and it's going to
Yeah.
be, you know. And I honestly thought it was also a platformer as well, because I thought, well, maybe it's just a bit.
Nope. Not even
not?
slightly. No.
Oh, no.
it's not. Definitely isn't. Not even.
Anyway,
in fact,
before-
no, I
before-
don't think there's any
sorry, go on,
platform
Chris.
elements at all. Think
No,
about it.
no, there isn't.
No. Anyway, before we get ahead of ourselves, before we start talking about the game, we've actually got a set of questions that we've put to Chris,
Oh,
and we'll ask him now and get his responses. We're going to do this every time a guest comes on now. We've got a list of 10 set questions we're going to put to them, just to see what sort of interesting remarks may come out. Mm-hmm. Ready, Chris?
I think so.
Okay, then. The first question is, where does your gamer tag / ID come from?
Ah, okay. It's got a mildly interesting story attached to it. So, I think it's mildly interesting anyway. Kropotkin is a name of someone, a name of a character. Yes, he is also a Russian anarchist from the 1800s, but that's not what I'm named after. At least that's what the name I didn't come from. That would be far too intelligent and intellectual. No, that was purely by accident. What the name I got from was way back when, in 1995, when I was first sort of looking into getting on Tinternet, because I was planning to get a PC for the first time back in 95. Up until then, I was an Amiga nut all the way, and I wasn't going to buy a PC until I had a half-decent operating system. I know, sad but true. So I waited for Windows 95 to arrive, and it still wasn't quite right, but at least it's better than 3.1. So I bought that, and then I realised I need to get on the internet fairly quickly when I bought this thing. And I read everywhere that you needed some kind of like name to attribute to yourself when you go on Tinternet, when you go on IRC, and back in those days that was the big thing. So okay, well, and then I remember as I was thinking this, I was watching a television program. This television program was called Punt and Dennis. If you remember it back in the day, they're still knocking about. They do lots of television shows, a pair of them, and they do lots of Radio 4 stuff. And they used to be in the Mary Whitehouse Experience, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they did the show, and one of the things they did was there's a spoof called A Man Called Martin. A Man Called Martin was this really, really mildly amusing spoof spy thriller from the 1960s. And this, who was, Martin was the main protagonist, and he was a bit of a dick. He's an idiot. And every now and again, his arch nemesis was a Russian assassin who went by the name of Kropotkin. And they would say this phrase, damn kropotkin and all this sort of thing. And I thought it was such a funny word and such a, the way they'd say it. And even to this day, every now and again, I get people online yelling at me, "Damn, Kropotkin must die," in that way. And it's not. I know what the reference is. They're not actually genuinely wanting me to die, or they may be. But it is very, 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 very funny. And I thought that was very funny, so I just nabbed it, and I thought, I'll have that. And I've been known by it ever since.
Well, it's certainly unique.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before.
Most people just shorten it to crop because it's got 3 syllables, and they get. I've got all sorts of mangled versions of Kropotkin. Kropotikopoulos, and I've had that one. No, he's not Greek. So just most people just shorten it to crop.
Nice. Okay. Next question. What is your earliest gaming memory?
Well, my earliest video game memory. I shall never forget it. It was a summer holiday with the rest of my fam in sunny Margate, or not so, as the case may be, on the south coast of Kent. Is it South Coast? I don't know. My geography's terrible. But anyway, it's in Kent, I believe. And I remember 2 things, or maybe 3. But it was, I encountered a video car arcade for the very first time. Now, I was about 5 or 6 years old, so it was this is 1976, 77, something like that sort of period. Show my age there, you can figure that now, maths fiends. So about 1977, 1976, I was about sort of 5 or 6. And I encountered this very big yellow box, and on top of this yellow box there was a screen I could barely see, and there's these 2 little dials on it, and they got on this box, and my brother and I got on top of this box, my older brother, and he was about 8 at the time, and we got up and we started playing this game, and it was like a weird tennis game. Yes, my friends, we're talking about Pong. My first video game experience was indeed Pong. Not the first video game of its time. We all know that Space War, but no one played that or bought that. So this is back in '76 when I don't know where it was because I was far too young to understand where I was or anything. But that's where we encountered. Then we saw other things. There was this strange sort of submarine game where you put your head up against this periscope and started shooting things. And I've no idea what it was. I was entranced by it. And the one thing that really got to me about playing that video game was the fact that up until then, watching a screen was an entirely passive experience. You just drank in what was thrust upon you. And this is the time when Star Wars was knocking about. Just the same year I went to see Star Wars was the same year I encountered Pong for the first time. So this is like, my head's exploding at this time. And but no, the fact that I could interact with what's going on the screen is what really dazzled me. Like, really? That's what I got completely gripped from then on, and then I was fascinated from then. And if that was it, I was sold. And it also fed my love of playing of games, of competitive games. My whole family's been like it, really. I mean, I remember playing Sabutio with my older brother, and my much older brother, and he for years he spanked me until one year I finally built him 4-0, and then refused to play me ever again at Sabutio. This is many years ago.
Good old days of Sabutio. I remember playing that as a kid as well, but I think the game, as you say, going down to the arcades and putting 10p's in was far more fun than just sitting there with a little green carpet with football players on.
Yes, which is always ruffled up, and then the ball would roll off and go, "Was that fair?"
Or ball would roll off or roll in.
It was stupid game.
I was more intrigued by by putting my head in the little periscope thing, like you say, with the. I remember.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what it was. If I did some research on Tinternet, I'm sure I'd find it. And there's another game I encountered. The third game was like this weird helicopter game. Turns out that what it wasn't a video game. It's one of those mechanical sort of like analog games where you sit on this thing and it would project an image of a city below you, and then it would rotate round, and then you could actually interact with it, and it would sort of shoot things and it would pretend explosions underneath with lights. So it was a mechanical sort of projector, but it really wasn't a video game. But it looked amazing, and it probably didn't work for more than 20 minutes.
And the batteries were huge.
Well, no, I dread to think. But no, this is on the arcade, so it was all, yeah.
I mean, it's not the sort of thing you'd come home and play.
No, that didn't happen for many years. Although I did have the Battlestar Galactica video game thing, the LED thing. That was awesome. For about 20 seconds. Anyway.
Right. Okay. If you could experience one game again for the first time, what game would it be?
One game again for the first time. Well, I'm not going to do the annoying thing of saying, let's repeat the question so I can just fill the air. Although I've just done that.
Nicely disguised.
I think this is going to be a bit of a trite answer, but then again, it's going to be Diablo. It's one of the most memorable games. I was really into D&D and stuff like that. I still am, of course, but I remember that game so fondly when I first encountered it. And it's definitely, I would love to re-engage with that feeling again of actually getting hold, playing that game for the first time again. I mean, I've played it again recently, and it hasn't aged terribly well. We're talking about Diablo 1 here. Indeed, 2 hasn't aged that well either. Although it's still... Actually, that's not true. It's very much a strong game. Graphically, it's quite poor, but the game itself is rock solid. But no, I think it's going to be Diablo for me. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it about the... What is it about the game?
The dungeon crawling, the levelling up, the getting stuff. It was also new to have that for me in a game. I don't think I'd encountered that ever before. I really couldn't. I'm struggling now to see. There's been lots of up until then there've been other games where you were running around the dungeon like Ultima and that sort of thing. But I never really got into the Ultimas because they are so impenetrable. And some of the also the Elder Scroll games like Daggerfall and that sort of thing were so bugged anyway that it's difficult to actually get engaged with it because there's a wall of a barrier to entry to those games. You need a lot of patience, a lot of dedication to get the most out of them. With Diablo, it's just so immediate and so the barrier of entry was not there. It was just so brilliantly presented. And so, and there's even a bit of humour to it as well. It wasn't so self-effacing but there was lots of. It's just so many brilliant parts, and the fact that every dungeon was random as well. Brilliant stuff. Really, really good. Very, very hard to fault. That's why I'd love to re-experience that.
Okay. Next question. What is your gaming machine of choice, Chris?
Gaming machine of choice. Now, I was asked this question by the Digital Cowboys, as was, may it rest in peace, and my knee-jerk reaction was the PC, and I was shot down in flames because that's not a gaming machine. Could you use a proper one? So if that's out of the, I still maintain that is my machine of choice to play games on, believe it or not.
I think we'll accept a PC as a
it is a platform. It's something that it has the most variety to it. You can do pretty much anything on it. There's no real limitations on what you can and can't play on it.
Do you have a huge backlog on Steam as well?
Massive. Yeah, it's massive. My pile of Steam shame is most unpleasant. It's snow-capped and people...
Did you just say your pile of steaming shame?
Yes, pile of steaming shame. Yep. I was waiting for someone to pull that one out.
We're talking about games here, Chris.
Stop pile of steam shame. No, some of my most fond memories of gaming has been on the PC, really. Granted, there's been some highlights on the Xbox 360 as well. I think one of mine was when Gears of War 1, I played it co-op with Pat McTighe, a.k.a. Hendrix, on Super Happy Fun Time. And, that was one of the most hilarious experiences. And conversely, one of the most memorable, to this day, I still rate it as the highest was when I was playing in a raid in World of Warcraft. Bear with me, and there was 40 of us, 40 people.
Jesus.
And this is in the days when 40-man raids were de rigueur, not 25 as they are now. And there was to have 40 like-minded people taking on this incredibly tough dragon and knocking him out. It was, it was just amazing. I was a healer. I was part of the healing squad, and we had tactics. It was just this symbiosis of people working together for a common goal. Just that magical moment of 40 people doing what they needed to do to take down the Therian, and I'll never forget it. And even the roars of joy when he croaked and slammed down onto the ground was still ringing in my ears to this day.
Okay, next question. When was the last time a game made you angry?
When was the last time a game made me angry? Well, we're not going to talk about Michael Cree because, unlike a certain other person in this podcast, I didn't find it frustrating. So let's just move on from that. A game that made me really... my temper threshold is quite low because I'm a Celt. So I have to, let's lug that around me all the time. Yes. When I was learning to play League of Legends... Defense of the Ancients clone. League of Legends is a free-to-play game. It's fabulous, but it's very impenetrable. No, that's not true. It's unless you understand the concept of Dota, which not many people do, unless you encountered it before. It's very frustrating. It can be very, very frustrating because you don't take that much of an active role. What's going on? It's multi-layered. You don't actually go in and attack things on the front line. You're not the focus of attention. You're not. The game does not revolve around you. You're just a participant in a greater whole. And until you get over that, the game's frustrating. And I really let rip. I was constantly dying, constantly making stupid errors. I didn't know what I was doing. And I found it, and then it was just compounding itself again, increasingly frustrated. And but that's the nature of the game. The game world does not revolve around the player at all. Actually, you're just a part of a team, and once you understand that and your piece in the puzzle, and then you have a much more rewarding game experience. But my initial encounter with League of Legends did not go terribly well.
So did you just stick with it then? Did you get
yes.
over the
yeah, definitely. I just I was playing with someone who's a veteran of the game, and he was losing patience with me, going, "What are you doing? Why are you listening to me?" And I was getting to that point where I was so blood fueled, raged, I wasn't listening to anything. But now I've now since seen the error of my ways and understand the game much better. But yeah, it's just frustration actually. So yeah, that's the last time I got really angry with the game because I just thought it didn't make any sense to me. This problem because we've been so ingrained in being the centre of attention in any game you play. Because isn't that the point? Isn't that one of the things we drive us to play games? That you are a sense of attention. The world does revolve around you in these games. Not for Dota, not for League of Legends. Certainly not. You're part of a team, and you should act like it.
Next one. What's Kropotkin's favourite gaming snack?
I don't eat during... I stop. I really do stop. I don't snack between meals anyway. So I'm afraid I don't eat at all. If I'm going to eat, if I need to eat, I'll actually stop sorry. I'll drink some water, that's it. Sorry.
No?
Yeah.
That's fine. No, I do too. I don't like eating because the controller gets all...
Yeah, and also just munching away. No, I can't do it. Can't. No.
That's much like me.
Yeah. So there it is.
If you weren't a gamer, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't a gamer, what would be doing? I think, if I didn't get so involved with video games and that sort of thing, I might have ended up either as got into rugby because I loved it at school. I was a scrum half, despite the fact that I was a scrum half, I actually really enjoyed rugby. By the way, people don't know that's where that's the player gets punched the most, constantly.
That's
it's
the most
just,
abuse.
just his job. But other than that, I might have been a writer, something creative like that. I'll still be an engineer; it's my job. But if I was doing things outside, I would probably be creative writing and that sort of thing. I've got a yearning or a desire to create things. So I certainly would have drifted into that. I don't think it would have been music. I love listening to it, but the creation of I've dabbled with it a little bit, but not enough to call myself a musician. Far from it. So yeah, it would probably be I would have thrown myself into creative writing and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. What is your biggest annoyance in gaming?
Biggest annoyance in gaming. The culture or the games themselves, or just that's a bit of a big old question.
I think
design the question to encompass everything. So if it's part of a game,
I
that's
think
fine.
the
If it's
biggest
something
beef I have, and I wish it would go away, but it's not going to go away because it's the nature of any medium, regardless of what it is snobbery. This is very topical because Call of Duty is about to come out in less than a month. And there's going to be a lot of naysayers against that game because, in some regards, and I'm not going to point out any names, and there's lots of people, are simply going to hate it for the sake of its COD. It's Call of Duty. Not because it's a bad game. It's because it's Call of Duty. And that riles me up. Yes, there's lots of douchebags who play Call of Duty in multiplayer, but the game itself is a fantastic package. So I believe it's thoroughly entertaining, especially when you're playing it with people you know and you good friends. It's a really, really, really good game, and the zombie add-ons are amazing, complex, rewarding. So going back to the point, game snobbery. I might have been guilty of it. All of us have been guilty of it to some lesser or greater degree, and we have to check ourselves when we do it. Don't do it. It's just, if you find yourself drifting along that road, and it's very easy to do, don't do it. Just think more, be more open-minded and think, okay, this is a good game, regardless of the fact of the franchise. This is a good game, and just accept it. And in fact, you could argue with the game we're talking about this week in this show falls under that category. You look in the front, kiddies, throw away. If you at the time, no one bought it because look at the cover. What the hell is this? This is some Disney cartoon never heard of. Oh, see? Yeah. Don't do it because you end up missing out. So there you go. Snobbery within video games. Stop it.
It's a good choice. That I think what I've found especially with COD and things like that, the more popular they get, the louder the dissenters become. Don't they?
Very much so. It's very common to sit there with your goatee beard and stroke it a bit and go, I'm sorry, I'm not playing that game because it's popular.
Yeah. That's
what?
exactly what's happening, isn't it?
That's basically what happens. So you sit there with your MacBook Air and your turtleneck and your goatee beard and your ponytail and go, I'm not playing that. I'm going to play this game where I have to stab a small child in the face, which is meant to represent something. Or whatever. Anyway.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, moving on. If you could only play one game for the next year, what would it be? And as you're a board gamer, we'll allow you to pick a board game if you like.
Thank you very much. But it won't be that. Because board games, by their very nature, although they do, of course, afford repeated play. In fact, my game of choice at the moment is Chaos in the Old World, where you play lots of evil gods. It's very, very fun. It's not going to be that at all. In fact, I think what I'm going to present to you is quite a surprising answer. At least I think it will be. I could have gone for the easy answer and say, I'll just play WoW again for a year. That would be ridiculous because I stopped playing WoW. And it's a ridiculous answer. There's nothing wrong with WoW. It's just that I've moved on from it. No, the answer isn't going to be like Baldur's Gate or anything like that. I could dive into that for 200 hours. Believe me, that's how a game long that lasts. No, it's going to be FIFA 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is a surprising choice.
Yeah.
Well, not in some respects, but I would have
Yeah.
I would have pinned you down to something like WoW or something like that, yeah.
No, it's FIFA 12. The reason being is this. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I envy the people who do it. That they sink their time and commitment to this one game. And a lot of podcasters we know do this. A lot of people I know, friends I know, just they play this game alongside all the other games as well, but they keep on chugging away at it. And I've read reviews and I know about the FIFA franchise, and it's very much a simulation now more than ever before of football. And there is so much to that game. It gives so much back to the player. You know, you pour a little bit of time into it, and it gives you so much more. And you could lose yourself in this game. You can play online against others. You can manage your own player. You can have a card game thing going on, like Magic the Gathering, only in like the Ultimate Team thing going on. It's extraordinary. You hear of people just playing the Ultimate Team, relentlessly. That's all they're doing. And this game, it comes for £40, and it's just the value for money you get for that is phenomenal. It's the amount of stuff they pour into that DVD or stroke Blu-ray or whatever is astonishing. And
you say it's good value for money, and what makes me, well, not laugh so much, but what gets me sometimes is that every year when it's released, you'll get people saying, "Oh, I'm not paying for another one. I paid for it last year. I'll skip a year." But then if you look at the amount of time that people do put into it, for the people that put thousands of hours in, it's well worth getting every year, because you're going to be absolutely rinsing it. Yeah,
you will rinse it, yes. Absolutely. You will continually pound away at it, and it will keep on giving, and you will never get bored. It just keeps on. There's so much to it. You can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. You can pick a god-awful team and just try to drive it through the Champions League and that sort of thing, despite the fact that you're playing Accrington Stanley. You'll do it. You do it. It's my team. By the way, my team is Crystal Palace. But anyway, that'd be just as ridiculous pushing through the Champions League. So that's what I would do. I would love to do it, but because of the nature of my ADD. And I haven't bought a FIFA in a couple of years now, and because I don't dislike it, I just simply don't have the time. I choose to play other games and do other things, so I just don't have the time to give it justice. So I choose not to buy it.
Okay, last question, Chris. Has a game ever made you cry?
I thought long and hard about this, and I can't do the Eris thing because from Final Fantasy VII, because I never finished Final Fantasy VII. I got to the Chocobos and went, okay, I'm done. Right, sorry, I don't want to race and bet against Chocobos. I don't care. Can we move on? No, you've got to do this. No! Fine. I'm off. I've got other games to play. So I can't do that. And I'm afraid I've experienced joy and I've experienced elation. But I've experienced sadness to the point of fear and apprehension of experiencing games, but never been drawn to a point where I'm actually doing the old yeller, they shouldn't shoot him sort of thing. But I can give you... I was brought to tears in frustration, if I can share that with you.
Yeah,
it's the best I can offer. Ultima Online, back in the day, 1999. And my computer at the time, its hard disk, it really wasn't very well. And but I wasn't really acknowledging that, as you do. It was making some strange noises and take a while to boot up. And every time it was paging away to this, the machine would just lock up. But I was playing Ultima Online, and you really shouldn't play an MMO while a machine is dying. Pro tips, everyone, don't do it. And especially in a game like Ultima Online, now bear with me on this. Now, the thing about Ultima Online is that there was no real game there, okay? There was no quests. Everything was pretty much player developed. So all you were given is a character, and you had a framework to work within, so you In order to make things, you'd have to go and dig ore, then smelt the ore, and then you'd have to make the item, and then it's all that, it was micro stuff. But there was no quests, nothing. The quests were developed by the other, you just kill other people or monsters. Monsters just wandering around randomly for no apparent reason. And that was the game, if you can call it a game. So the thing is that in order to get anywhere in this game would take a very, very long time. And I got to a point where I was reasonably, mildly well off. I had my little house and had a boat. It was pretty good. Had a nice boat to myself, and I went round, cruising around for, again, no apparent reason, just because I could. And also, I had this amazing set of armour I recently purchased. And I decided to do a bit of monster killing. Nothing better to do. So I went, no percept. There wasn't a quest, right? Just killing them for the sake of it, because they were there. And I had this dirty great halberd, and I was whacking away at these orcs and stuff. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. And then my computer started paging away at the disk. And and then everything this is mid-fight, like, oh god. And so, this is going, doesn't it? And so all of a sudden the machine locked up, and now the thing is, so I got killed. Now this is Ultima Online days, okay? This is a nice fluffy World of Warcraft. This isn't, you get killed, that'll be fine. You just go into ghost mode. Oh no. No. You see, if you die, right, your corpse is left there with all its stuff on. That's fine, right? But other people can take your stuff.
Shit.
So I knew this was going to happen. I was like, oh no. So I was like, and then, lo and behold, I managed to get back to my corpse, and there it was, stripped bare. There was nothing left. It was worth thousands and thousands of gold pieces, and I was like, it was just on my knees, like, no. And I knew what was so galling was that I knew it was my fault. Ultimately, it's my fault. I knew my computer was dying, but for some reason I wasn't giving it attention that it deserved. And that was the. So my tears were not of sadness, but of sheer frustration and horror of what I just witnessed. It just stripped bare. It was literally naked. There was nothing. It took everything.
Oh no!
Everything.
Even the Calvin Kleins were gone.
Yeah. It's just so nasty. It's like, what the hell, people? Could have left me with something, but nope. They just stripped me bare. It's terrible. So there you go.
Did you go back and get back up to that level again, or did you quit?
I did carry on playing for a little bit, but then EverQuest came out and I stopped playing. So there you go. But that's a story for another time.
Good stuff. Well. We've got some talking to do about Mark of Cree.
We do.
Which is the game that we've all been playing. So a little bit more, a lot more in fact, straight after the break. What do you say, Jake?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, back after this.
Ooh. Dark times. Dark times indeed. Much grief did Rao feel. The pain from his loss was great. With every step his hatred grew. With every step a fire rose burning deep within his heart. Fire that burned away his pain, turning it to anger. His heart demanded vengeance. His blade cried out for blood. The Dark One's trail was easy to follow. Deep within a desert, shrouded in night, the necromancer's home lay sprawled like the bones of some ancient beast. Outside its gates, bodies hung as a warning to any who would dare go further. My master scoffed at these warnings. His rage knew no bounds. Many men would die here today.
welcome back, everybody. We're going to move on to our discussion now on the Mark of Cry. And before we start, I'll just warn you that we are going to be spoiling the hell out of this. So if you do plan on playing it, and you should if you haven't, and you're bothered about spoilers, then perhaps come back to the podcast when you've actually played it, because we will be spoiling everything from this moment on.
Indeed.
Right.
Spoiling it lots.
Indeed. Okay, so the Mark of Cry, it's a third-person action-adventure, and there's quite a heavy emphasis on group combat. It was released in 2003, developed by Sony's San Diego Studios, and distributed by Sony Computer Entertainment. We'll start with the main story. Basically, the plot centres around a young chap called Rao, who's a warrior, and he's grown up under the guidance of his adopted father, Baumusu. And he's young, seeks adventure, so he starts to accept requests for help from people in his local tavern, and he goes out on these adventures, and eventually he meets a mysterious old man in the tavern who asks him to do a task for him, and he's basically betrayed, and that's when the shit hits the fan, basically. The Mark of Cry is an ancient spell. There's 6 parts to it, 6 verses, and if they're all brought together, then basically the minions of the underworld will come and rain havoc, basically. And you discover that you've unwittingly helped this stranger, this dark, mysterious stranger, to get a couple of the pieces of the Mark of Cry, and then you set on a quest to stop him getting the final pieces. Anyone got anything to add to that?
Other than the narration is provided by the familiar that he has, Kudo, isn't it? Yes. And you don't know this until right at the end, but it's rather brilliantly done, actually, very cleverly done.
Yeah,
but,
it was quite surprising.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, I didn't realise that was going on.
Yeah.
But
I got a few hints at the beginning when he was saying "my master." You know, when he was using that, I was just thinking, maybe not. Maybe I'm going off in a completely different direction. Could it be the bird? Because I mean, obviously, could this be Kuzo? But of course, I mean that quickly went out the window, because I thought that maybe there was a third person involved in here that was later going to be, because of not knowing the story. I thought maybe there was somebody else who was going to appear.
But it does a fantastic job of tracking you along, and it gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah,
I mean, really, a lot of that's one of the things. There's lots of black mark against stories in games. What's the point? But in this instance, there's definitely very much a point, I have to say. And
yeah, well, for me, stories actually one of the most important things I look for in games. Because if the story's poor, but the actual gameplay is quite strong, I find myself being put off by the story.
Because you don't care.
Yeah, a recent example actually is I went back to the original Gears of War, and I mean the combat system in that is absolutely fantastic, and the gameplay is phenomenal at times. But because the story for me wasn't very interesting, I couldn't finish it.
Yeah, you just couldn't hack it. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, I found myself in a complete lack of any sympathy or empathy for any of the characters, and I just didn't find it interesting, really. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you're first introduced to Rao in the bar stroke inn tavern, whatever you want to call it, and that's where the sort of the hub of your missions begins. That's your starting point, and from there you speak to the barkeeper, who tells you that there's bandits in the surrounding forest who need clearing out, basically. And he then
just to interject, there's quite a funny part in there where he says, "You don't want to kill bandits, so you never manage that. I've got some tables you can clean up, though." And he starts banging on about that. And then it cuts in when you walk out of the bar. It says, "My master did not want to clean the bar." And it's just like, it was very funny. But yeah, but there is a training element as well to get you used to the game, the interesting game mechanic of combat. Should we expand on that before we?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you speak to the barkeeper, he instructs you to speak to Baumusu, isn't it? And he then takes you outside to give you some training, and that's where you're introduced to this this combat mechanic, which I've never seen it before, and I don't think I've ever seen it since. It's pretty unique to this game, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing at first, isn't it? You're trying to get the buttons, get used to the sticks.
So let's talk about it. Let's break it down, because I think it deserves this kind of attention.
The basics are is that it's going for a multi-character combat system, and to sort of implement that into the game, you're given you control the character with your left stick, and with the right stick you have a sort of focus beam that projects out of the character's body, and if you paint any enemies around you with that, the enemies get assigned to a specific combat button, which is, I think it's the circle, square and X buttons, isn't it?
Yeah, circle, square and X. There's the 3 face buttons that it flashes up on the screen, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with where they are on this controller, which, let's face it, most people are, it's very, very well designed, I think, anyway.
As Joe said, it was a little bit strange at first to get used to the... not so much the actual combat, but the painting of the targets was a little bit...
Yeah.
And constant repainting.
Yeah,
Yes.
because, I mean, if you change weapons, you have to repaint them again. It was difficult, there were times when, I mean, in the training ground you had the dummies that you were practicing on, and that was easy because it was explaining things clearly. You've just got to go this button to attack, and then but you've also got to defend as well, which is something that you don't get to do with the dummies, because in the battle, in combat, you get enemies from behind, from the side, from front, attacking you at the same time, and it's very difficult to maneuver out of that, because there's a very interesting thing. If you use your sword and you're up against a wooden column or some sort of pillar or some sort of table, your sword will actually get stuck in the side of it, and you'd have to take about a quarter of a second to get around to pull it back out again, and then you're open for attack, clearly.
Never seen that before.
No?
I don't ever seen that in another game.
No,
in Mark and Cree, but
yeah.
have you ever seen that in another game where your environment is in, as you're swinging your sword around, it gets stuck in things, or when you're fighting near a rock, it will bounce off the rock and you couldn't, it's amazing.
It's great.
It's just...
Did either of you find that the AI tended to try and head towards things that it knew that your weapon...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say exactly that. There was times when, I mean, in the later levels, certainly. When you were in the big last castle, and there's lots of these wooden columns everywhere, and you have the archers at the top, and it just seemed like all the enemies were just gathering round these pillars, as I call them, and it was just so difficult with the axe to get a good swing on them, because I'd find that I'd hit one, go for the second, and then bang, and that was it. My axe was just stuck in the side of this pillar, and I died.
Dirty
so
great
times
axe,
like that.
though.
Yeah. I mean, it chopped people in half.
Oh, that axe
was brilliant.
It was annoying.
But there was another aspect to the combat which intrigued me a little bit. Was that I called it? It didn't have a name, but I called it focused onslaught. Focused onslaught is where you only painted one enemy, and this allowed you to do multiple combos with other face buttons. So you basically had to... So if you had a blue X on an enemy, this affords you the right to do combinations with the other face buttons if you had no other enemies focused. So I'd actually do that a lot. I would actually get frustrated with a certain stronger enemy, and I'll reset the painting by you press down on the right stick. It resets it, and you just focus him, and you just chop him up. But it requires a lot of timing, timing involved.
I found that a lot of timing was really
on the timing.
Sorry, Jake.
I was just agreeing. You've got to be quite precise on the timing. But when you do pull the combos off, you can. Certain enemies you can kill with one decent combo, and others it takes a hell of a lot of their health away, and or completely strips their armour. One thing I found great was the fact that certain enemies are covered in armour, and you've got to get through that armour first before you can start to diminish the health bar. I thought that was quite interesting.
Indeed, and even still, when they're covered in armour, if you time it just right, you chip them over, you just stab them in the heart.
Yeah.
And then the other enemies get scared, and they just start running. They sort of backing away from from what you've just done. It's really clever stuff. And also, I noticed that I think the time is right to talk about this now, because we're giving a nice flavour of the game and how it is. This is a combat game. This is not a platformer. It's certainly not. There's no weird Mario moments. There's nothing like that. It purely is a series of intense combat engagements. Some of them can be avoided by using certain puzzles. We'll talk about that in a moment. I encountered instances where you could complete a level in multiple different ways. You didn't have to explore every avenue to get it done, and you could actually avoid a large chunk of death and destruction if you're very clever. We'll talk about it in a moment. But one of the things that I did find is that it has achievements, kind of.
Sort of.
If you
Challenges, isn't it?
challenges, you have challenges in the game.
Great.
And if you do certain combos or you do certain things within the level, you open up a challenge, and then that opens up an arena. And then if you do complete challenges in that arena, time challenges, you then get rewards. You get new outfits and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. You get new credits, new artwork. You unlock various parts of the game. This game came out in 2002. Okay, this is like years and years and years before the concept of achievements was even invented. And yet here we are, this game with this amazing combat system, and it has a form, albeit somewhat primitive, but it was a form of achievement unlocking. So something to note.
It was good, but even though there were times when I found myself, as you know, Chris, a bit frustrated with the combat. I found myself, especially in the last two levels, the red pyramid, where you've got to get the stairs and things and climb to the top. You have to save the boy, basically, who's dead. It seemed really difficult to try and change between weapons, because there were archers firing at you, and you were trying to strike somebody with your sword, or with this what was it called, the stick, the taoli, or I can't remember what it was called, the stick that had like I can't remember the name of it. I didn't.
No, the name escapes me too. Never mind.
But anyway, the taoli, I think it was called, something like that rings a bell.
Taiha.
Taiha, that was it.
Taiha. There you go. Yeah.
Which is also very lethal. But I found myself, going up to enemies, especially at this level, and hitting them with this weapon, but then being struck by arrows from a different direction, and they're just completely, freezing up and not being able to counter attack or anything like this, or defend or do anything, and leaving myself open for attack. So it was a bit frustrating where, I need to shoot the archer first, but I don't have enough time to switch between my weapon to go back up to hit the archer who's way, way above me, which I've got to get a precise hit on, because, the blue X begins to flash, or you get a fixed S if it's a headshot. And you're trying to put this arrow, but you've got the enemy behind you. And there were times when like I said, was about to throw my controller on the ground, because I thought it was like, I don't know, you just seemed overwhelmed at some, with enemies.
There was instances like that, and there were when it happens like that. I felt I never got to the point, amazingly, despite my temper, that I actually just didn't want to continue, because there are kinds of I say I'm done. I'm not playing you ever again. I never got to that stage, and when I did encounter that, I usually found myself going, "You're doing it wrong," which is a great gaming phrase, I find. You're doing it wrong, and it means that there's something you're missing. There's something you're not using. You're not, because the beauty of this game as well is that it gives you tools as you progress.
Yes.
This is something many other games do, but this one specifically really does it very well. And it gently introduces you to more tools, and you have more of them are presented to you, and it's just does it so well. And that's the strength of the game. Is just like it gives the choice of the player. Here's all this stuff. Here's all these tools. Do with them what you will. You know what to do. Just do what you need to do. Just match the tool to the job. And once you've got that, it will be a much more pleasant and easier experience. But the trick is knowing what to do and when to do it.
Absolutely. Another thing that's, just to go back to the tutorial, another thing that's introduced to you then is the fact that you've got this familiar. It's a big black bird called Kuzo.
Yes, we've
And
spoken
he's
about
with
it
you
already.
all the time. And you can, there's certain points throughout each level that Kuzo can fly to, and if you, they're basically indicated by this bird symbol, and if the bird symbol starts to spin, you can send Kuzo over, and then he can look ahead for you. You press triangle to get Kuzo's first person view, so you can see what's coming. And
You can also
get twice.
activate the red beams, which also activate ladders and things like this as well,
Yeah.
can't he? So
Yeah,
you
he
can
does.
actually
He
pull
also-
switches, bring down ladders, stuff like this.
And also, and this is an important gameplay point, as many people go, no, is saving scrolls. Yes, everyone.
Yes.
There are checkpoints, but there are points where you can save the game, but not anywhere. You have to have a scroll in order to save. That's right. It's Resident Evil all over again. And so I never found it at all frustrating. I did find myself going, there's a scroll! Oh, thank God. I don't want to do that again.
They are
And,
few and far between at times.
they are,
When you've
they
got
are.
them all, you've got, I think, a very important tool to save any way you like. The other thing I found was also few and far between were the health, the little red spinning thing.
Red spinning, also all the white spinning ones
White
as
ones.
well. They increased your health
The
overall.
green ones were arrows,
Yes.
ammunition.
Yeah, ammunition.
The red ones didn't give you much health. I found myself again in situations where I had a minimum of 17 enemies on me at once. one little red spinning. Then I thought, now, is this a good time to use this, or should I save it for later? And found myself like you going, oh, red spinning scroll, use that, and pausing the game and thinking, right, what do you want to do, Joe? Do you want to save, or do you want to get some health, or do you want to go back and do the level from your last save point? What do you want to do? I thought they were a bit scarce, but maybe there's a point to that. Maybe there is, as you say, the skill needed to get to one of those save points is, you've got to have the right tools, as you say, Chris, but also you've got to have the right frame of mind to get to that stage as well.
And I did find there's little annoyances that you wouldn't pick up items while you're in combat.
No, true.
If you had to disengage to go to combat in order to get the stuff, oh my God, that was frustrating. It's good. You get tripped over. You get tripped over a lot when you run away.
Yeah,
from,
I found myself running away to the green triangle, which is like a switch that opens doors to the next level, to the next stage.
Yeah, that's
just
not...
running away and just getting to that switch.
Can we
because
just
you think,
get out of this mess, please, and just move on?
exactly.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I made
But
the
yeah,
mistake.
sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say I made the mistake, particularly in I think it was the last level where you're going from room to room and you've got to hit certain switches of trying to clear every enemy before I got the switches. And
They spawn
my
like
God,
mad.
It took me ages.
In the last room, the two archers, there's the two switches are opposite each other.
Yeah,
and
oh God,
you've got two
yeah.
archers standing on either side of the switch at either end. And then you've just got enemies spawning out of the ground. And one of the enemies that, they weren't difficult to kill because the axe was just chopping them in half, left, right, and centre. But there were these little, what would you call them? Like little midget men
Like
that were
imps.
running around. Imps, exactly.
Like
and
little
they were
imp
just
type
running
things.
around. And I just couldn't hit them for the life of me. It was just impossible to try and get one of
And
those.
also, just to illustrate the point here, this is not like Devil May Cry, or this is not like... you don't pick up health from killing these things.
No.
Nothing. You gain nothing from killing them, apart from they stop hitting you.
And stop
That's
stealing
it.
your bloody weapons as well.
Yeah, and stop stealing your
When
weapons,
they, when they first come in, they steal your weapons, don't they, the imps? And there's one room, I remember in particular, where you're just left with a bow.
Yeah.
And fuck me, that was frustrating.
But that's what I just
with
want
no arrows.
Yeah, I want to go back to Kuzo just a little bit, because there's something else he does, which is very, very important to note. He's a camera, okay? Let's just face it's what he is. So you can throw him off and send him off to a perch. He'll sit there, and he will then you can see through his eyes because he's your spirit guide. So you do a bit of trance-like stuff, and you can see through his eyes. And this means that you can see where other enemies are, other enemies, where the enemies are and where they're pacing and that sort of thing. Now, you probably think, well, what benefit does that have? If you so far we've just been talking about killing everything in a rather brutal way. We've been swinging an axe, firing a bow and arrow, and chopping people in half with the sword. Well, there is actually a stealth mechanic. So one of you two want to expand on this? I mean,
yeah, well,
because
the stealth mechanic you're introduced to in the second level. The first two levels are like a sort of more expanded tutorials, really, rather than actual story missions, aren't they? And then the second one, you're introduced to this stealth mechanic where you send Kuzo ahead of you so you can see what's coming, and if you can paint your targets as you're either sneaking up to them or backed up to a wall, and then you can take them out silently. And there's actually massive sections throughout, I'd say the middle third of the game, where you don't have to do multi-character combat at all. You can just purely sneak through stealthily.
Yeah. You have to be careful though, because some of these stealth enemies, or the ones that can be taken down, have these massive horns that they blow through, and they sound like a warning sign. And on more than one occasion, you have to really hit them the first time and take them down, because if it's just a hit and you just injure them or just slightly, I don't know, make a noise that alerts them to you,
they will immediately blow their bloody horn.
And you can hit them with, the kitchen sink. They just will not stop. And then you probably find yourself with another 40 around you. I made that mistake, on more than one occasion. They've got, when Kuzo goes up to the high levels, you can actually see a little emblem spinning above the enemies that are in the area above their head, telling you what they have, and if they've got a bow and arrow, if they've got swords, or what type of enemy they could be. I think a lot of the time, the ones that were with these so-called horns that they used to blow through, the ones that used to alert the others, they were in very strange positions, very difficult to access at times, and you had to be really careful that you took them out first time, as I say, because I've found myself again overwhelmed with enemies for just one stupid little move that I didn't think about first. So you've got to be really careful and plan your attack.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the timing is crucial in many respects. But I found it so satisfying when you were standing. You pressed up against the wall. And by the way, in order to do this, you had to be completely disarmed. You had no weapons in your hand. Yeah. So you had to disarm yourself. You press against the wall and you just wait for the guard to walk by and just catch him just at the right time. And it's tricky, but when you get him, it's just like, got him. And the violence. Oh God, the violence. It's bone snapping. Yeah. There are times when it's like, really? Did you have to go that far with that? I mean, he just slices his head off. Okay. That's not where I would have gone, but fine. And there's blood everywhere, and it's like, blimey. He doesn't hold back. But there's also the ability to disarm people as well. When you've got no weapons in your hand, you can actually, you're caught out. You haven't managed to do the stealth kill, but it is possible for you to grab their weapon and throw it in their head. Did you manage that at all?
I did when I first encountered it, when I was taught how to do it, but I then found I didn't actually need it after that.
No, nor did I. I might have done it once or twice by accident when I was caught out, but on the whole it was like quite a funny thing to do, but it's not something that you'd rely on, because the timing required. In order to do it, you had to grab the weapon as they swung it. And that's a big ask with this game.
Difficult. It's quite difficult, because trying to hit them in the middle of the body or hit them in the legs was quite difficult in itself. Yeah. I mean, you really had to get a good. I mean, with the axe, it's obviously very, very strong, but with a sword, it was like the stronger enemies, as Jake said before, the ones that had armor. It was difficult to get their legs and knock them over, and I found myself being knocked over more times than they were, because it was so strong and difficult. Like you say, Chris, I think this game is just, you have to really think plan and take your time. It's not one of these sort of button mashers that you can just go through.
It is not God of War.
No,
It
exactly.
is not.
And
and
it's more of a Batman Arkham Asylum sort of thing.
Yes,
Because you've really got to time, see what's around you, see what enemies are around you, and then just take your chances then and there, because otherwise you just find yourself dying a lot. And it took me a while to realise this, I have to admit, because at first I was playing it God of War style. I was going through the levels, and I found that was really not getting me anywhere, because all I was doing was just dying. And I just thought, Joey, just sit down, think about what's going on, and just take your time, and one enemy at a time. Just think about what's going on. And funnily enough, I played Arkham Asylum not too long ago, so I was into that frame of mind already about thinking maybe I can use the same mechanic here, and that worked much better. I mean,
and it's quite surprising, though. I mean, I go harking on about how old this game is. But it's just like, the stuff that's got in here is really innovative and, at the time, very groundbreaking, and just hasn't been adopted.
It's surprising when you look at how many unique things it does that there wasn't more emphasis put on it at the time. It wasn't pushed more than it actually was.
So there's one more thing. Kuzo isn't the only bird in the game, now, is he? I'm not sure if you use this mechanic. But you could use birds to distract the enemies.
You could use monkeys to distract the enemies.
That too.
You could use boars to distract the enemy.
Boars as well. Yes, I forgot the boars. Yeah. Although they were a bit hit and miss, because the amount of times that like, no, towards me, oh God.
I found that there was one incident. Actually, now you say that, it reminded me. There's I think it's the second or third level where you go through these where the boars are, the castle with the big high walls that you've got to jump up. Well, I sent Kuzo down this long alleyway all the way down to the end, and I could see that there was like about 4 enemies standing there, and I just thought, I'm going to try this, frightening them. And as you say, there was a boar just, and I thought, what's this? And I hit him, and he went running, and instead of running down, he actually ran down towards the enemy, and I was running behind him. When he saw the enemies, he turned round back the way I was running and alerted them to me. So I was like, you bastard, now you... I mean... it was funny, but frustrating. I mean,
it's like, and ever since I don't trust you, little fucker. Go away. Just go away. I'm not interested. I know what the game's trying to do, but I don't try. It's not going to work. Piss off. So,
and then, to be honest, I didn't even try the monkeys because I got so frustrated with that boar, and I thought, I'm not doing that again. Sod that.
But it's really fun the way they've done that, and. It just adds yet more evidence of the levels and complexity that this game has, that it really stands the test of time. Because it's
I really noticed that actually, that although the graphics obviously indicate that it's an older game, the actual gameplay felt really fresh. It didn't feel old in the slightest.
No. So if you can see through
unique, it feels new.
If you can see through the fuzziness, then sort of, when you play old games from the previous generation, it is just fuzz. If you get past that, it's a fantastic game. I do believe that. It does have its problems. There is levels of frustration, difficulty ramps that you just don't need or are indeed warranted. But beyond that, you've got an amazing art style. The presentation's superb. It sounds great. Voiceover work is really good. I thought, and I thought the very end. Can we talk about that now? Are we at that place? I think we've really delved as much as we can. We'll talk more about the presentation later and what its inspiration is. But the very end, when he's the main enemy, the big protagonist, the big dude, the one that's causing all this horror to happen, has caused you no end of problems ever since he betrayed you back in like 3 or 4 levels prior. The fact that he started banging on about we could rule the world together and that sort of thing, and it doesn't even finish his sentence because Raoul throws his axe and cleaves his skull wide open. So and then just like, there you go, shut up.
It's a great picture as well. It's a great image, I think, because you see him with axe in the middle of his head and he's cross-eyed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great picture.
It's like, it was just literally like, shut up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear this monologue, please shut up.
I was actually a little bit frustrated by that because I spent probably the best part of an hour in that final room.
Yeah.
You're in that room, the main enemy is stood back on a stage, he's guarded by 3 massive, heavily armoured zombies, and you're on the floor fighting. I think you probably go through about 50 enemies before the 3 bodyguards of his jump down and enter the fray. And once you defeat them, I was thinking, yes, I get to kill this fucker now. But you don't. It goes straight to a cutscene in which he dies. And I found it a little bit annoying that I didn't actually get to face him and fight him.
Yeah,
maybe, but I thought the comedy pathos was just about the trick.
No, it was. Despite my frustrations that I didn't get to fight him, I did enjoy that final cutscene.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because he reveals himself as the narrator at that time.
Yeah, throughout the game, you're sort of the story's narrated to you over. There are sort of cutscenes using what I suppose you could call them traditional cutscenes that are sort of carry on the game aesthetic and show you the characters interacting with each other. But the main cutscenes are actually, they're sort of almost drawn before your eyes. That you start off with a very, very simple picture, which is then details then added to it as if it's being drawn, and it finally becomes this cell shaded scene.
Yep.
Which then seamlessly transfers into the game graphics, and it's just really, really well done. That absolutely,
the artwork is stunning. The artwork is really stunning. One of the things that impressed me most about this was the artwork, because I love that sort of thing. I love drawing, the sketching, and seeing these drawings. That for me was just as a loading screen in effect, because that's all it really was. It was just I don't know why other games don't pick up on something like this, because it just brings in so much. I don't know, it just makes it look much nicer when you're just sitting there instead of staring at a screen with just a frozen picture of whatever, an enemy, a landscape. I mean, this just clearly fills that time beautifully, because it's just so nice to look at. It's so pleasant.
It really is very. The whole package of that presentation is astonishing, and it really adds so much to the game experience.
It does. Anyway, but I was just the point I was getting to was that the voiceover's done over those scenes, and the narrator constantly refers to his master, which is the main protagonist, Rao. And at the very end, the very final scene, the drawing that reveals itself is this bird, and it turns out that it's Kuzo that's been doing the narration throughout the game, and I thought that was brilliant.
Brilliantly well done.
It's a nice surprise as well.
Yeah.
One final, or maybe not final point, but one other point that I wanted to raise on the actual gameplay and the missions was that I found it good that each mission introduced you to something new, be it a new combat manoeuvre or a new weapon, and each of the levels also got they got longer and harder as the game progressed, and the last one particularly was very, very long.
Yeah, it was a bit. I think it was. I agree. One a little bit too long.
Perhaps you're basically going through different rooms, aren't you? You fight hordes of enemies in a room, go to another room, do the same, and you do that basically until you get to the final room and defeat the final boss. And I just thought it was perhaps 2 or 3 rooms too long, that final.
Yeah.
Too repetitive as well at times as well. You found yourself doing the room with the one I was talking about earlier, with the stairs at either end and the switches. You're doing that twice.
Yeah.
It's just, I just thought, well, isn't there another way? Stairs, moving, maybe changing. But then again, we are talking about a game from a different era. So I mean, maybe those things were not really important for them. Much more important was the presentation or other things. I don't know. They had limitations certainly, but it didn't kill it too much for me. I just found I expected that sort of thing to happen, because it was just killing enemies and just getting the right balance by then was difficult enough, and so I wasn't really concentrating on what was coming next. I was just trying to get through it. Just trying to make sure I got to the end or got to some sort of save scroll, and thinking, oh, is that the last one? But I take your point. I mean, that last level is really difficult, and maybe 2 or 3 rooms too long. No, certainly.
It's not library point of badness, but it's did go on a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Halo Library, the infamous level from Halo 1. God knows what they're going to do with the remake on that level. Maybe they just big sign up. Really, really sorry.
Apologies now.
But you're going to have to suffer this. Well, I'm sorry. I know it sucks, but never mind. Anyway, we're digressing, which means I think we're drawing to a close.
Brilliant.
I did notice some notes here about Metal Gear Solid and level of stealth. Do you want to expand on that?
What I found...
Shaky?
What I found was that it introduces this brilliant multi-character combat system right at the start, but then the levels after that, there was sort of maybe an over-reliance on stealth, or maybe it was just the way I played it, but I found I was using stealth a lot more than this great combat mechanic.
It helped things immensely if you did a stealth kill. Especially if you did a stealth kill on someone with a horn. Because there are rooms that I couldn't get through, and then I went, you know what, I'm just going to stealth kill that patrolling dude. Got him, just about managed it. I remember just dropping a control going, yes! Because every time I'd gone into that room, he'd blown his horn and 50 enemies come marching in and slicing and dicing me. But I finally got him down. Like, that's it, that's what I was supposed to do.
It's it's difficult. Those dudes with the horn are just, oh man, they were just
Yeah, it's the bane.
Just horrible.
Yeah.
You could just feel it as well. I mean, I don't know if you had the same feeling that I got, but you were just fighting away, thinking, you're just waiting for the horn to go, and you're thinking, no.
And the game does a lot to say, this dude's got a horn.
Yeah.
Because not only has he got the icon above his head, but also he's got a little shiny little spangly thing next to on his belt to say, that's see. It's meant to say he's annoying, kill him, sort of thing. So,
and then you approach him, you go to hit him, and then he's still blowing his horn.
He's still, he doesn't care. He's still blowing away. I don't care. You're only going to slice my head off, but you know, at least I'm going to take you with me, sort of thing. Yeah, you probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you let him blow his horn, you know you're in for a tough ride.
Steady.
Wolf.
Yeah.
We've touched on the fact that the aesthetic of the game is sort of Disney-esque, and it transpires that Chris, you'll probably know about this. I'm not sure if you've actually done any reading on the game, but a couple of the team who worked on the game are actually ex-Disney employees.
Yep, it shows.
It certainly shows. It's just got that great sort of visual style to it, hasn't it? And I can't remember many games at the time that looked like that. There was one that sprung to mind, and that was Maximo, which perhaps looked vaguely similar.
It's more animated, isn't it? Because they had the big bulging eyes. So,
it wasn't quite as Disney-fied as this, but it reminded me of that anyway.
Yeah.
And but I think it does. It is. Well, I think we said it earlier, but it didn't really mesh well with the violence in the game. No. You know, when you think Disney, you think family friendly, but this game's not family friendly because it's lots of blood and guts. So it's kind of weird seeing a Disney character being sliced and diced in a Happy Tree Friends like way.
With a horn.
With a horn, yeah, steady.
What did you two make of it throughout the game?
The music. Suitably atmospheric. I don't remember it being particularly memorable, but it wasn't.
What game did we play, Joe, where we mentioned the music? There was 2 games, actually. It was Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater and Gun, where we said that the music there was like a really, really good rousing score to them.
Yeah.
But the music in this is sort of more incidental, isn't it? It's sort of...
It is. It's very understated. Very understated.
It's just background noise, but it does add to the tension and creepy feel of some of the levels at times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it was very reactive, when you were discovered, the music would kick in like, oh, God. And when that settled down, you knew you were in a quiet area where you could start to carry on moving along.
Yeah, it's very, very Oriental-esque because as well, because you have, when you're discovered, you have this drumming beat that's loud and boom, 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 and you have this sort of like banging of some sort of wooden can't think of the, like tapping on wood to keep you sort of alerted that something's on, and it's this constant rhythm. But you, as you say, it's like an alarm, like a you've been discovered thing that you have to try and fight and get away. But
yeah, it's quite common to find now,
Yeah.
these days in games. But I don't know, back then.
then this is what I was going to say. Was that sort of thing that you would expected of would expected of a game like that? It's
I
just-
think so. I mean, this is the PS2 era. This is like when music in games was real music. They just spooled it off the CD and stuff. So, yeah, I do remember seeing it in games, contemporary games, certainly in Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't that amazing, but it certainly did the trick. Did a great job.
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, understated but effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have done with a little bit, but I suppose the narrator did a fine job with his voice, because
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
also there was no need for music, if you see what I mean. I was paying close attention to what was going on in the story,
Yeah.
and there was no need for a mood because the pictures were already painting the background that I needed for that information. So it was, as Jake said, as the picture evolves, begins to sort of colour itself in, and you know where you're going, you know what's around you, you can see the environment that you're about to enter. So there's no real need for music there. So it's just it's very visual, very nice though. Old. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love the game purely with its art style. Frustrating at times, but certainly one I would like to play again in the future. And
So
maybe
you
even-
wouldn't hesitate recommending it to anyone?
No, it's like I said, it's a game that I didn't really even know about.
No.
And thanks to you and your recommendation, I'm glad I did find it, because I did enjoy it and I would play it again. And maybe it's one of those that a few years down the line you think, oh well, what was that game I played that was really good with the art style and the very good combat and the guy who was blowing the horn. I want to go
dear.
back and play that again. And
Yeah.
certainly it's a game that I would go back to. Maybe not now, because I think I'm all Creed out at the moment. But I would like to have another go at some point.
There was more made. A sequel was made of the game by another developer, and it was called The Rise of Kazai, and it never got released outside North America, and it was bad, apparently.
Oh,
Yeah, I hear bad. It wasn't as good as the original game, so we didn't miss much in Europe, apparently.
No, well, I had actually thought of looking to pick this up when I read those a sequel to it, but then reading some of the reaction to it, I thought twice.
Yeah.
Perhaps best not. It was developed by Bottle Rocket Entertainment, who I've never heard of, to be honest.
No. They outsourced the game for some reason, Sony that is, and well, there it is. But that doesn't really work out too often when you outsource stuff like that.
they don't
So
really
they'll-
get the sense of the game, the original game, do they?
No, they
no
lost
real-
the magic. They lost what
Yeah.
they didn't really understand what made the game so great.
Yeah.
And it is a great game, and you can pick it up for peanuts, right? It's very common. It didn't
is.
have a short print run. It had a large print run, and it's pretty easy to pick up. How much did you two pick it up for?
Well, I picked up both of our copies from Amazon Marketplace, and I paid about, I think the actual games were about £1 each. So with
Unbelievable.
postage, it's under a fiver.
That's
Just
great.
astonishing.
Not even postage, because you gave it to me when we met up in London.
Well, yeah, you didn't have to pay postage, but I did.
No.
Yeah,
You did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
all right.
to-
Postage
just-
home. Okay, got you.
And one more tip for if you're planning to get this game, you lovely listeners, that's both of you. Sorry. Does it work on a PS3? Because I played it on the PS2. I didn't.
I didn't try it, to be honest.
No, I've not got a backwards compatible PS3.
Oh,
anymore, so
okay.
I've been playing on the
Something I could have
PS2 as
checked,
well.
but I'm not sure if it works on the backwards compatible PS3. Although they're not that common these days. It's probably a academic question. But I certainly played it on my slim silver PS2, and it still rocks. So
Yeah, I've got one exactly the same as yours, Chris. Silver
Yeah.
PS2, nice and slim, and fantastic. I think that great recommendation and really really enjoyable. So if you fancy picking it up, then do. It's dirt cheap and well worth a go.
It's definitely well worth a go. You'll not be angry at a recommendation
No.
of this game. It deserves the attention that we're giving it. I hope you can
Absolutely.
hear it in our voices. That it's one of those games like you think of classics on PS2, and it's certainly not. This is not one of them that you commonly hear, but it deserves to be there. I think it's up there with the likes of God of War. I do believe it's one of the better third-person action adventures, and many other developers should learn much from it. And maybe they have. The people who did Batman, maybe they played this game because there's lots of similarities between it and Batman and this game, certainly.
Absolutely. I'd definitely add a third recommendation. I'd actively encourage people to go out and get it and give it a go. If you've got any interest at all in old PS2 games and you've not played it, then you've no excuse because it's dirt cheap, so go and get it.
On that note, I think we've done it justice and we've given it its attention. So let us know. If you do play it, do let us email us at lastsaveloaded and let us know what you thought about it. And if there's anything we've missed, then we'll certainly add to it. But I think we've said more than enough. All
Right, so just before we completely wrap up, Mark of Crete, what gents is your highlight of the game? What would if there's one standout moment that you can think of from your playthrough, what would it be, Chris?
For me, is fairly early on in the game, but I couldn't. It was a bit where it's part of the very end of the stealth tutorial level, if you will, where you're in a fortress, and as you first encounter people with bows and arrows.
Yep.
And I used Kuzo to make sure that their movements were tallying with mine as I moved between one pillar and the other to take out the other guards on the ground. That, to me, really threw me. Like, my goodness, this game is excellent. Allow it to that kind of level of tactic be employed, and the timing. That's what really sold me. For me, that was my. Now this is why this game deserves so much attention, or why I'm playing it, because I've got millions and millions of other games to be playing on the current gen machines, but it afforded me to sit down and really just drink this game in. And when I encountered that and used that mechanic, that was the moment when yes, this game's awesome. So
is that the
it
level
is.
where you're sort of going down a sort of inverted pyramid?
No, it's very early on. It's like the end of I think it's the second, when you first figure out how to do stealth killing, the stealth attacks.
Oh yeah, I know. What you mean.
Yeah, and it's in like a ruined fortress near a beach.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's there. It's at night time as well. So that's my highlight for me.
I think mine would be what I was just referring to. I think it's the fourth level, and it's the level as a whole is quite reliant on stealth. It's sort of set up in a snowy mountain, and you go through a fortress up there. And the final section, you've got a circle of tiered ramparts, and you've got to sort of stealth kill your way down all these tiers and get to a tree in the middle, which is an oracle, and it's going to give you a prophecy. And just the timing and sort of the use of Kuzo there was brilliant. And I just that level, that part of the level as a whole, that's as you were saying, the in your highlight, that's what sold you on the game. This part is what sold me on the game, and I just thought it was brilliant. And I died a lot. I probably had to do that part 10 or 15 times to get it right, but when I got it right, there was such a sense of satisfaction. It was brilliant. Joe?
For me, it's difficult actually. I would say the ending, the last level. The last level for me, in that room, the 2-3 rooms too many, as we said earlier. I think by that stage I'd mastered the way the combat, and I knew exactly what I was doing and how to get rid of enemies around me, and I was more concentrating, even though I died a lot, because I did die a lot, and like you know, a good 15, 20 times before I got it right, and saving, using all my scrolls, desperately trying to, you know, inch my way into the next room. But I think when you get to the end, it is a bit frustrating that you don't get to kill the final boss, but when you get to the end and you're there, and you see that you breathe this huge sigh of relief, thinking, I've done it, I've finished. It's a great point, and I thought that, for me, I really want to do that again. I know I didn't really sort of have a good time of it, because I enjoyed it, because I was enjoying the combat, but, you know, you're so powered up and you're so knowledgeable by that point about what's going on around you and how to fight each type of enemy, that it was just difficult but fun. And then, of course, to top it all off is the reveal at the end with Kuzo as the narrator as well. I think that also put the little cherry on the top that made this game playable for me again, certainly at some point in the future.
Absolutely. We've just had one piece of listener feedback about this, I guess, because it was quite not unpopular, but it's a lesser known game from the PS2. We've not had much correspondence, but this is from Darth Cuddles, and his thoughts on the game was, he says, I don't remember much about the story of Mark of Crete, or too much about the gameplay, other than that I enjoyed it. My abiding memory for some reason, though, is the weapons physics. It's a tiny detail, yes, but each weapon had its own feel. I wouldn't clip through the scenery, but rather bounce off it or get stuck into wooden objects. I don't know why, but this blew my 10-year-old mind. I do know that it was a violent game, but me and my parents were less game literate than we are now. Love the show, Darth Cuddles. He's sort of touched on what we've already said, and the weapons physics were great.
Yeah, totally. It was frustrating, like I say, in that last level where your sword was getting stuck in all the pillars, and it was really frustrating, but it was well thought out because, as Chris said, and rightly so, I don't think I've seen any other game do the same thing, because it's just it was that tiny little touch that gave it that essence of, yes, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. Right, I think that about does it for Mark of Crete. So we'll have a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
And so, this story draws to an end. A once dark and powerful magician lay slain to my master's blade, as did his legion of terror. Tati was safe with her brother, and the 6 marks of Kree were once again protected. In time, my master became known throughout the lands as a great and noble warrior. His adventures were many, and his battles grand. As the oracle had prophesied, Rao did in time become a legend. Indeed, his name was spoken to calm children on stormy nights, and I hear one day he did sit with the gods. But all of this is a different story for another time.
Okay, and welcome back. Jake, we've got a few things to tell our listeners. There are some changes coming to Last Save Loaded. Where do I start? Yeah, lots.
You've got changes. You could have told me.
Well, most of them were partially your idea as well. So, I mean, I think, one of the reasons that we've been away for so long, obviously life has got in the way here, but we've also been discussing changes to the show, and there are going to be a few things, new features coming very soon. I'm not allowed to say exactly what they are yet. Am I? No?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Okay.
Not quite. We'll reveal that with the first of the new iteration of the show.
Because it's been quite a while, I think Jake and I have sat down and thought this out, and we're going to be producing LSL every 2 weeks. The quick save episodes are going to be disappearing, which means that we won't be doing an intro to the game, but the game casts, as we call them, which are the episodes like the one today about Mark of Kree, are going to be sticking. So we are going to be choosing a game, and we are going to have a special guest. In fact, our next guest is David Elmo Turners, and we're going to be doing. Have we Do we say what game we've done, Jake? What do you think?
Yep, yeah, we're going to be doing 13.
We're doing 13 together, so we'll be planning that with Elmo pretty soon. Nonetheless, in the meantime, we are going to be planning a normal episode. We've got some features to introduce. We've got some new things which hopefully will keep us in your iPod and in your iPhone and in your ears every 2 weeks. But we'd also like some listener feedback to tell us if there's anything you'd like to contribute as well. I mean, you are going to be participating in what we do. It's bloody hard not to explain everything without being able to say what exactly it is. But
well, the gist of it is that we've decided we're not. Yeah. We've decided we're not regular enough, and that's what we want to become. So
basically
we've agreed that we're going to be doing a fortnightly show, which, as Joe said, will introduce these new features, and we're also going to be introducing a new host. We won't say who it is.
We have a third chair, people. We have a third chair. We have a very, very experienced gamer coming to the show. A great chap, a good friend, and we hope that you'll enjoy the show with him and us together. So it's a great addition. Not going to say who it is. Right. Shout outs to anybody. I've got a couple to say. I need to give a mention to Epic Fail, the lads on Epic Fail, Matt and John and the other John. We were on their show a few weeks ago talking about violence in video games. Great lads, great show. We had a fantastic time. And go and give it a listen. I think it's episode 89 or something like that, if I remember correctly. Something funny. I can't remember, but it's you'll see it. It's on their feed, Epic Fail Podcast. Give it a listen, and you'll see last save loaded. We're on there. The other one I need to shout out for is Cookie again. He's been with me on Dead Nation, and we've been going through the DLC. We'll get there. We'll get the trophies. So yes. I hope so. I hope we manage to finish it at some point. Yeah.
Do you mean Dead Island or?
No, Dead Nation on the PS3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to platinum it between us, and it's bloody hard, really difficult. We'll get there, Cookie, one day. No worries. And that's it from me. I think that's all I've got to say. Jake, any shout outs?
Nope. No, that'll do for me as well. I think that about wraps us up, to be honest. Chris, if anyone wants to listen to you, find out more about you, can you do you want to pimp your things?
Sure. Do lots of things, really, but there's a couple of main things that I do. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Super Happy Fun Time show. It's been going for a very, very, very long time, and we are now can be found on Spong. So if you go to spong.com and click on the podcast tab, we're right there, right next to JoyPod, and also we have other rafts of 3-player game, and of course Super Happy Fun Time show Off Topic. It's also a very popular show, and I also do UK gaming news every week. I release on Sunday, typically, a podcast that lasts only 5 minutes, and it just rounds up all the gaming news that's specifically relevant for people in Europe and the UK. So it talks about games that are happening and things happening in the UK, and also talks about what games have been released and what announced release dates there have been. So it encapsulates all of that news into a nice little package of time, rather than you have to trawling through your RSS feed looking at pictures of something that Kotaku threw up that no one has any interest in.
Super Happy Fun Time show, doesn't our Master and Commander Zibzang tend to make an appearance on there, is he not?
He does. We made a bit of a shake-up recently, and after we came back from PAX Prime, we decided to shake the hosts up, and now we've got a rather large sort of pool of people that come in and out just to make things more varied, and it's working extremely well.
Fantastic.
And this week Neil was actually on, and myself, Tony, Tony Atkins, and I think Jason. Is it Jason, or it could be Jason and Pat Matteo Hendricks? So it's quite a gaggle of us on this time. So yeah, really looking forward to it. And we're recording tomorrow, so that comes out at the beginning of every week, and it's been going within a 4th season now. And so yeah, we'll keep on going. As long as people keep on listening, we'll keep on, playing.
Fantastic. Yeah. How about, do you want to give out your Twitter details, Chris?
Certainly. I'm Chris O'Regan. That's Chris and Oregan. You can find me on Twitter, and also you can find the SHFTS feed. That's Super Happy Fun Time Show tweet. SHFTS. You can find us on there. We usually use that just to alert people of latest episodes and that sort of thing. But yeah.
Great.
I do talk a lot on Twitter, as everyone knows.
Yes.
But I'm also on Facebook and other things like that as well. I'm not a like exclusive things on social networks. So Facebook has got its powers and it's quite good at doing certain things, and Twitter's quite good at doing certain things. But Google Plus, I can't get into.
A hybrid of the two would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would. It really,
Only
really
the
would.
joint forces.
Yeah, that'll never happen. Anyway, you can find us. Our Twitter feed is at Last Save Loaded, all one word. Feel free to tweet us and give us your thoughts on the show. We also have a Facebook page which you can click and like. If you haven't done so already, we'd appreciate that. We're also on iTunes as well. Please, please, please leave us a review if you like the show. It's always nice to read something that our listeners put down there. It's very encouraging and great to hear feedback. You can find me at gbjoey71 on Twitter, and Jake at...
I am at Jake Del Toro, all one word. We've also now got a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Last Save Loaded, and on there we're going to be putting videos of the game that we're currently playing for the dedicated Gamecast.
Yeah.
Our other host
that's
is...
another of the new features that's coming to LSL. Shh, don't say anything.
It is. Our new host has been working pretty hard on getting some videos together, so I think by the time that this podcast goes out, there should be some videos on there of 13, which
Also,
we're really looking forward to playing. So come check that out as well.
Certainly. It's going to be fun. I think that we're really looking forward to the changes that are coming, and certainly having our new host with us here on the next show. I think that's about it, I guess. All that remains is Chris. Thank you very, very, very much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun, isn't it? I enjoyed it.
It's been great. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe we can invite you back for another stint on here.
I have to think of another obscure game. I'll have to ponder that.
Yeah.
There's lots of them in my brain. But
If you can think of another game that we'll enjoy as much as Mark of Cree, then absolutely.
Yeah, certainly. It's been great fun. So I'm open to suggestions. Certainly.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, we'd love to have you back.
I shall ponder that. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to share in the joy of Mark of Cree with you both.
Brilliant, fantastic. In the meantime, thank you very much. Give us a like, leave the reviews, follow us on Twitter, everything. We will be back very, very soon. In the meantime, goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.